Hey guys, Rob Reviews here, bringing you another review for another episode of course, The Walking Dead. This one is Season 2, Episode 5, Chupacabra. So we'll go over the plot for this one, and then we'll talk about my sort of general thoughts on the episode. Gonna try and get a Game of Thrones episode review out tonight, if I can possibly do it. Maybe also another Leftovers one, and if you're lucky, I'll conclude it with a Walking Dead comic review. But anyway, so let's go through the plot of this one. So first of all, we see the start of the outbreak. We see obviously Shay and Laurie Carl are stuck in the traffic on the highway, and that's where they obviously meet Ed and Carol and Sophia. And obviously Ed, we see that Ed's kind of a bit grumpy and abusive. We see Laurie obviously in the car, and we see them holding on to each other as the city gets just bombed. Obviously, like helicopters blowing up skyscrapers and everything. And then we find Laurie at the farm waking up, obviously, after the title sequence. Carol already started the chores, and obviously Carol asks help to, prepare dinner for Herschel as like a sort of thank you for their hostility, for letting them stay there. Meanwhile, Rick is preparing to search obviously the grid with Shane and all that to search for Sophia. Obviously they're planning out where they need to look. Then we see T-Dog joke about Daryl finding actually a Chupacabra out there, and obviously Jimmy laughs about it. Glenn and Maggie discuss what happened in the pharmacy, of course. We have all that kind of stuff, building a bit more on their relationship. So we have them obviously searching in the woods for Sophia. Rick and Shane discuss Shane's thing in high school with these like different women they were with. Shane challenges Rick about the decisions that he's always tries to help other instead of focusing purely on survival. So you have all that kind of stuff. Daryl's riding one of Herschel's horse through the woods, and obviously spots Sophia's doll tattered and wet against a log, so he calls Sophia's name, so obviously she doesn't think. He obviously grabs the doll, gets back on the horse and continues through the woods, but the horse is spooked by a snake, and Daryl's thrown through the down the waterfall. Obviously here he's impaled by one of his arrows, and we see him kind of sort of just give up a little bit, and then we see back at the farm with Glenn, concerned about Laurie. Rick tells Laurie that Shane wants to call off the search, have that kind of stuff. Rick finds Herschel by the generator, informs Rick and Daryl that Daryl took one of his horses, Nervous Nelly, obviously, and didn't inform him. Obviously, bloody and bruised, we have Daryl waking up at the bottom of the thing, and we see like a hallucination, which is really interesting, of his brother Merle. And obviously Merle says that, kind of makes fun of him for a bit, and then it realizes that the thing is actually a zombie gnawing on his shoe. Daryl obviously kicks out of the way. We see him use basically tear out the arrow and out of his chest, like out of his body, and uses that to stab it. And then we see that he grabs a log and hits another zombie, and then he kills one with a log, and then there's like a zombie coming at him, so he pulls out the arrow and puts in his crossbow and shoots the zombie with it. He then finds all of his stuff, and he begins to try and climb the thing, and then of course begins to climb the big hill, and obviously Merle's making fun of him in his hallucination, and then he obviously falls, but then he goes back up. But eventually he goes back up again, and he makes it to the top. Then we see Laurie, Carol, and Beth and Patricia work on cooking dinner. We tell Maggie, obviously, at the table, and that stuff anyway. Obviously Glenn talking about Andrea being on her period and all that. We have Daryl asking about Laurie. Glenn obviously reveals that him and Maggie had sex to Daryl. Obviously talking with Daryl about it. Rick orders that he then we have Andrea screaming that there's a zombie, a walker coming. Rick and Shane and all that say we'll handle it, but Andrea's pretty keen. They run up to it, but it's actually not a zombie, it's Daryl with the ears around his neck. He's got zombie ears around his neck and covered in dirt and blood, and then Andrea shoots him but like skims his head, and then obviously and obviously they sort of scream saying, what have you done, sort of thing, and they kind of bring Daryl along, but he's not dead, he's just been sort of wounded, a flesh wound. Then we have obviously Daryl in the bed and Carol bringing him dinner and stuff. We have them obviously at the dinner table which is funny. We have Andrea obviously pretty upset about it, but Dale says, we've all wanted to shoot Daryl. Them at the dinner table more, and then obviously Maggie passes Glenn a note saying, do you want to do it again? Do you want to meet up again? And then obviously Glenn passes her a note saying, let's meet in the barn. He goes off, and obviously he goes to the barn. He climbs up the top. He obviously smells a whiff of a smell. He shines the flashlight and he sees all the zombies on the floor. Dozens of walkers there. And then he sort of runs fearfully for the door, right into Maggie, who says, you weren't supposed to see this. So really, 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 really funny. It's really, really good ending. Pretty shocking, obviously. Didn't expect, I expected it, but most people probably didn't expect that. Really weird twist. However, the episode is pretty slow. I've got to say that. I like the stuff with Daryl and how, him just being an absolute badass and all that. Like, that stuff is really interesting and really fun to watch. But overall, again, it's another episode that really doesn't do anything for the story. It's a bit like the episode, the Cherokee Rose episode last episode. It doesn't do anything for the story too much. The only thing that really progresses in the story is a bit of stuff between Merle and Daryl that we learn. We still know that Sophia's not out there, so it doesn't do anything in terms of that. And apart from that, I guess the stuff in the barn, but it's like one thing. So really, I was just kind of a bit bored with this episode a little bit. Wasn't too great. I don't think it's as bad as the last one, though. I'm going to say it's a 5. I'm going to say it's a solid 5. It's got some good stuff in there, but it's average. It's pretty like meh. I would watch it, but I wouldn't be too enthusiastic to watch it over again. So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review. Thanks for watching. Please comment, subscribe, tell me your thoughts on this episode. Of course, this is Chupacabra, and yeah, I'll see you next video. Goodbye.